Good evening. I would like to propose that Councillor Yvonne Johnson is appointed chairman for the ensuing year.
Thank you. I don't know how many more meetings we'll have because I think that's going on. Discussions are going on in the background about this. We've got the minutes of the last time we met, which was in 2021, and both myself and Greg were here. So can I sign those as correct record? I'll sign those for you in a second if you pass them over. I'll sign those. Okay, which then...
Apologies for absence.
Yes, apologies for absence. Councillor Nijar, who is working abroad. We understand that, so that's why she can't be here. I've signed those. Thank you. And that brings us on to today's meeting.
Just gone through urgent matters.
Urgent matters, there aren't any, as far as we know. Declarations of interest, none from me. Greg, none. Matters to be considered in private, none. Okay. Right, that brings us on to the actual meeting. So item number 7, I think the accounts, that's first, isn't it? So who's going to talk briefly about the accounts? That Russell?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So Appendix 3 on page 9 is the statement of accounts as at the 31st of March 2023. So we've put 2 years there as a comparison, 31st of March 2023 and 31st of March 2022. We show within the balance sheet the investments, and we get that from our investment manager, BlackRock, and also cash at bank. So the total net assets 113,528 and then 115,397 the following year. We also show the other side of the funds, the restricted funds, which effectively are the BlackRock investments, the valuation. Just to note, the valuation as at 31st of March 2023, we're getting that updated. So the figure at the moment is technically as at 31st of March 2022. So there's been some volatility within the valuations during the year. So the bottom of the page is a revenue account. So that shows all the income that's come in from the BlackRock in both financial years. And that obviously gets added to the NatWest bank account. So that's the movement between the years. And then there's a bit of interest in terms of the bank account as well. So we show the surplus for both years, which gets added to the bank account. So if there's any questions on the accounts, obviously happy to answer that.
Questions, Greg? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Just one. If the next item on the agenda is to potentially award some monies, obviously that's a recommendation for the current or the financial year that's just ended, i.e. End of March 2023. Would we need to alter the accounts to reflect that, or would that balance come out in next year's accounts?
Yes, Councillor, that will come out in next year's accounts as a financial commitment then.
Okay, thank you very much.
You now then, if you want to go off and do normal things. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, then that takes us on to item 8, the awards. Sorry?
So we've got they're on this one. We've got 2 decisions.
Oh, 2 lots.
So this is. So you've got
Recommendations at the top. Okay, recommendations. A total of 7,000 to be made to support children and young people. Right, that would mean using 7,000 from the bank account of 28,000. And the recommendations on Appendix 2. The future of the trust and the increase in the bank account of 6,000 for interest and etc. 136 made to the balance of 7,000. Okay, but this, we need to go through the awards, don't we? Before we do all of this, really.
Yes, so perhaps if I can just say a few words and then
Yeah,
ask
then
my
we'll come back
colleague.
to the, yes, we'll come
Um,
back.
Yeah, and then I will also suggest that Alex comes in. So, due to sort of staff capacity, we have identified a number of children and young people that we feel are worthy of support, and they come from families with that present challenging financial circumstances. We haven't fully identified all of those pupils. We are currently in the process of doing that, but I'm going to suggest that I've suggested that we confirm the individuals by half term. The reason for that being is that we've had, the change of staff, and also the slight emphasis, the change in emphasis of these awards. So that's where we are at. We've identified approximately half of the number of children and young people, and then the remainder will be identified by half term. And yeah, so just to clarify that the £136 is in addition to the dividends available for these 2 years. So I'm suggesting that we actually dip into the bank account to the tune of £136 to make up the amount of £7,000. Alex, do you want to come in and just say a little bit about how we've gone about identifying the children and young people and the others that will be identified by the half term?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, Yogesh has given a really good summary there. I think the most important thing is to state that we're seeing it as 2 separate awards for the different years. So you'll notice that I saw the 1 year, 2021 to 22, as individual awards based on teachers, colleagues, parents who've written about exceptional children who are in need. Either of, in one case, a known child was paying their Saturday music school fee out of their birthday money. So very touching stories from all of them. So that those children have become the core of the first group with the names that I gave for those. For the second group, we were keen in Ealing, as the new National Plan for Music has recently come out late last year, to really grow singing in the borough. It's something that we feel is not dominant enough, and we would like to link in with one of our partner organisations based in Ealing called Tenebrae, who are currently working with 2 schools in Southall, currently 2, soon to be 3. And at the moment, when their partnership ends after a year of singing, teaching to a whole class environment, there's no continuation. So we were really looking at establishing a small group and individual lessons for those children that have been identified as showing great potential or talent, or capacity or interest. So it was a way of growing singing in Ealing, but also for that later year, 2022 to 3, but the earlier year, awarding children who need lessons, individual lessons, or need something to help them develop, but are already exceptionally talented.
Okay, I think we've both got a number of questions. Councillor Stafford, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you. I just need to go back to first principles on this. So what's happened to the auditions, which was the way that these awards were previously administered? Why haven't we held auditions? That's the sort of first question. The second question is, on a macro level, how can we be, the auditions were a very clear way of determining capability. This, forgive me, sounds a little bit more haphazard a way of choosing, and I'm slightly uncomfortable with just a random figure of 4,200 being allocated to a yet undisclosed group of people for something. So can we have a bit more clarity on that? And the final point for the moment, I think, is about the singing lessons. Now, I've been on this trust for a number of years, and my understanding is that the trust is very specific in that it is for musical instruments, because we've had singers previously come, and as much as a singer myself, I would love to give money to singers. My understanding is this trust is specifically for musical instruments, and therefore I wonder what the legal position is for us for the recommendation to give it out to singers, because previously we've not been able to do so.
Alex, I'm very happy to go to respond to Councillor Stafford's 4 questions.
Sure. I mean, I've got some points as well, but I'll let you go first.
Yes, so thank you for those questions, Councillor Stafford. So the first point, why no auditions? It's simply because it's too expensive. The amount that it took to administer those auditions far outweighed the amount of award available. In fact, Helen Harris has questioned whether the process that we have, is it worth it? Now, I feel very strongly that we should keep hold of the Leonardo Aggio Financial Trust. There was a questions have been raised as to whether we should continue with this. Would it be better to give the money to another charity? I've actually said that I don't think we should do that. We should find a way of making it work. I think the part of the reason is that there's twofold. Instruments have become very expensive, and the economy has meant that the returns have diminished. So, for example, to give an example, to have 3 members of the senior leadership team at the auditions would cost about £1,500 in terms of salaries. I mean, you know, it took place on a weekend, and also we organised a venue. For the most part, we did source those venues for free at various places, but sometimes we did have to pay university students to help with the the ushering process. So that sort of answers the first question. It is very expensive to audition to make those auditions in place.
Sorry, Councillor Stafford would like to come back on that.
Okay.
Yes, I take that point. Can you just remind me? My understanding again was that these auditions were usually held with alongside other auditions for other awards. So are you saying that the music services have stopped auditioning for all awards, or just for this?
So we have they did take place sometimes alongside other awards, and so the recruitment process had took place simultaneously, but different mechanisms were in place for the different types of award in order to meet the needs of the various funding bodies. But it is the case, it remains the case that the Leonardo Aggio auditions took place on the actual auditions took a whole day, and for which 3 members of the team, well, 2 members of the team plus an external expert had to be booked and paid for in order to staff that audition panel. And then another point linked to that question is that awards do come and go. Some awards have actually they've become redundant. We are constantly looking for different sources of funding to make different types of awards.
I had a point I'd like to make. During COVID, music provision changed fundamentally to online. So by doing this, we're running in parallel with the London Mayor's Fund, Awards for Young Musician, and several other funds, such as even exams that are now digitally resourced. By doing this, also there's some pretty stark research that shows that children from lower income families perform better in online tapes and recordings rather than informal auditions. So I think that's very important that children from all backgrounds feel comfortable in a formal process. So we're aligning ourselves with all the other major awarding bodies, including the Associated Board and the London Mayor's Fund. But we're also, I believe, given the best chance to children from all backgrounds to show their potential. And it's no longer, the focus in music education is no longer just on talent, it's on potential. Awards for young musicians are a body that show how important it is to spot potential rather than just talent.
We could go on to the other questions.
Yes.
Because I think the important one that Councillor Stafford made the point about is it's not meant to be singing, and we've had this before. It's meant to be about music, learning to play instruments.
So can I, if I can quickly go through the various questions. So I would disagree that it's a haphazard process. In fact, I would argue that only with the audition process, it was only those children or families that applied that would actually be considered. In this way, my team, of which there are 50 teachers, they are absolutely in tune with their families, and not just musically, but also their sort of together with schools, their ability to pay. And in this way, we are actually able to identify those children in the most need, which right now is the need of the hour. And £4,200 is, I mean, Alex is currently in the process of identifying those pupils, but we have, because of staff changes, I've had 2 members of the SLT that have changed in the last 12 months. We're a little bit behind on this, but we're absolutely sure that we will identify children that actually most need the financial support. And then finally, about musical instruments, this is ongoing. And in fact, if I can say so, Councillor Johnson, that the question number 2 is in response to something that that paper I have submitted, and I believe I submitted to Julie Lewis, my line manager, and I believe that was agreed, and that's why we're meeting. There seems to be a continuing misunderstanding in terms of what these awards are for. Now, even as recently as 10 days ago, I forwarded on to Helen Harris the actual will and last statement of Catherine Woodthorpe, who was the daughter of Mr. Leonardo Aggio, and that clearly states that there are 4 areas in which children and young people may benefit. It's not just musical instruments, and in fact,
tell us what those 4 areas are then.
Yes, they are musical instruments, lessons, and also to support somebody put on that first concert. And there is another one that escapes me right now.
I think it's ensembles, the 4th one.
It's not ensembles, no.
Okay.
I can confirm the 4th.
No, it would just be useful if you could send us that.
Yes.
So forgive me, and perhaps I'm pretty much certain I'm directing my skepticism and slight bafflement to the wrong people. But it appears to me from the discussions we've just had is essentially some discussions have happened about this award between yourselves as the music department, music service, sorry, and legal. And I am unaware, and maybe I don't know if Councillor Johnson is, but I am unaware of the outcome of that discussion. I was unaware, well, first of all, I was unaware the discussions were happening. Second of all, I was unaware of the outcome of those discussions. So it slightly puts me as a trustee of this in an awkward position, because whilst I take your word for it, I've not had the ability to, understand what those discussions are, see what the outcomes are, and really understand what we're trying to achieve here. So please don't take my questioning as some kind of criticism or even disagreement with what you're proposing. It's just that we are not party to those discussions, which is slightly frustrating.
I share your frustration, Councillor Stafford, because I've put in I will confirm everything in writing directly if that's appropriate. I have put in the various papers. I think I've written 2 papers on this very subject, and it's my understanding that they have been agreed by the various parties the various stakeholders. So I'm not taking your comments as criticism. I'm taking it as support and making sure that we do the right thing.
Can I ask a question? How much does one singing lesson cost?
So what we've done is, I mean, it's similar to what an instrumental lesson would cost, and what we've done is sort of pitched it in terms of a child either needs a small group lesson or a one-to-one lesson, and so therefore the £700 is linked to a child that needs about 30 one-to-one lessons of 30 minutes each in a year. And the £350 is sort of geared towards somebody that might need a group lesson. It's individual lessons aren't appropriate for everybody. Sometimes in a group lesson, children learn even better because of the social interaction. So roughly the same. About £30 or so. Our costs are about £40, and that includes on costs, etc.
Can I just say something I've said in the past? I get concerned. We've got 2 high schools and 2 primary schools. Now, we said this before when you started putting up, you put notices in different schools. Why are so few schools on this list? Why is it just 4 schools?
So once we've identified all the children, there will be more schools. It's the children will be will be attending some schools, and
every child that's been nominated at the moment is from a different school. It's just that we can't clear the obviously the singing awards until we know if it's going to be ratified by the board, and it seems that that's not going to be able to be cleared tonight because there are questions over the actual award and discussions that were before my time. So it seems that we won't get an answer tonight, but indeed the children from the singing schools were from different schools as well. But there's no one school that's dominant, it's just that for £2,500 or so, that's 6 or 7 awards, and the children from 6 or 7 schools for the first year.
So to make sure I understand, so you're saying Drayton Manor High, but children from other schools go to Drayton Manor for the singing lessons?
No, the singing awards are the different calendar year, but obviously I can't go ahead and get confirmation of those students until it's ratified by this board. But they are from different schools, they're not from Drayton High, they're from primary schools in Southall, for example.
Yes, thank you. I suppose following on from Councillor Johnson's point, one of, and I think Yogesh, you mentioned it earlier, one of the problems in inverted commas with the auditions was that it didn't necessarily go wide enough to attract a wide range of schools, which is something we've always been very keen on. What I think what we're trying to get here is clarity to understand how this new system will ensure that a wider range of schools are contacted and are able to submit bids, for want of a better word, for their students. And I suppose I get the point that the staffing changes have meant that that's been difficult over the last year or so. And so I get that, but I think it would be good to get that reassurance. I hesitate to say this. Yes, I hesitate to say this because I know some of my Labour colleagues, either here or online, may disagree with me. But obviously, this award is for all children in Ealing, as far as I'm aware, not just those who come into contact with the Ealing Music Service. So how do we ensure that those children who perhaps go to schools outside the borough, or children who go to the independent sector, because some of them are on grants and things like that, they're not all affluent families, how we ensure that they also have an opportunity to access this fund if appropriate?
That's an excellent question, Councillor Stafford, if I may say so. With over 20, how many years now? With over 20 years experience of helping administer these awards, I know that's been a challenge. So whilst it is true that that right now all the children and young people have been identified by a member of staff that is on the Ealing Council payroll. One of the delays, apart from the ones mentioned, is getting this on the website. So this will sit on, these awards will sit on our website. There have been the website has not been, the website I believe is live now, but not sufficiently long enough to attract the public. So the idea is this time next year, not only will the pupils be identified by members of the Ealing Music Service, we will put it on social media. So that families can access this opportunity directly, but also we now have 3 network meetings per year, per term, and special schools, secondaries, as well as primary schools, and various colleagues have a presence in all 3, and we will mention these awards and get it out there. So this time next year, I'm hoping to have a wider range of pupils, but I still think that even next year, I think it will still be weighted towards those pupils that have been identified by the music service, because I have contact with them. Alex has a regular contact with them, and she's always badgering them, as she will be on the September training day. Asking them to start thinking about which of their pupils would be eligible for this, and then the rest of the is appealing to the school-based colleagues as well as to Joe public. So in time I see 3 major sources of recommendations for this award.
Thank you.
Our teachers don't just do small group lessons and individual lessons, they work with whole classes. So they work with teaching assistants and other children, and we are encouraging them to nominate children who have just started learning alongside their class, as you and I may have learnt recorder years ago, how to nominate those children too. Also, I think our partnerships like Tenebrae are crucial. We're not actually in that school, but Tenebrae is in that school and are telling us there's some exceptional children there. So I think it's working together, but I definitely second what Yogesh said about if it is going to become a digital process without formal auditions, we need to have a strong presence on our website, which we are changing all the time, and it's the next thing on the list.
Can I ask about the ones to be decided? It says up to 12 pupils, but that's 4,200. So why is that such a much larger amount of money for not very many children?
Well, 12 pupils, it could be less than 12 pupils, but up to 12 pupils, that's £350 support each.
And is that for singing again, or is that for music, playing a musical instrument?
Alex?
So we've given you a list of specific names for the first calendar year. For the second calendar year, we're suggesting the singing lessons, which will hopefully for 12, if they have small group lessons. We thought 1 or 2, judging by what we heard from Tenebrae, were deserving of individual lessons, but small group lessons are better than nothing.
I think maybe we need to get clarified that this singing business, because in the past we've never, as we said, given awards for singing lessons. It's always been instruments. So I think that concerns both of us slightly. And it's not that we've got anything against singing, but it seems all a bit strange that there's this new bias towards it. Surely some of those children might want to play the piano.
Singing at the moment is underrepresented throughout most of schools, which is why the new national plan has brought singing in. So we're responding to the new national plan, which is a government document based by music experts. So it's not a bias. But what we're doing is working with partner organisations and giving children an access into music through singing, which doesn't require an expensive instrument. Anyone can sing. And I think that's why it's such a big thing in the national plan, with the cost of living, because people can sing in their bedroom with YouTube on, and it's a completely different access. But it also is an issue because we have so many people coming to us asking for singing awards, and so few organisations support singing lessons. So the London Mayor's Fund, which is run by someone who's a singer, will not fund singing lessons. So when a teacher comes to me and says, I have an amazing singer, I can't get them an award because so few of the awards around support singing. So it's based out of my frustration over a year with Ealing Music Service not being able to give awards to singers because so few organisations support singing.
Can I ask Yogesh? I don't ever remember in the past us ever giving awards for singing. Can you tell me if that's true or not?
So we have awarded awards for singing, and yes, we have done that. In fact, for the singing category, we even went up to 26 as an age because vocal cords, Council of Stafford will have a view on this, will develop much later. My predecessor was a professional opera singer, so I think that's that's where the extension of the age range came from. So in terms of the confusion about whether it's instruments or whether it's more than instruments, I will circulate two documents which has conflicting information. However, you will see from the documents I'll send you that the last will and testament clearly mentions 4 areas of support. And I actually think that the other document, they've actually just they're just the solicitors have not bothered to put all the other 3 in place, and it just says instruments. So however, I can confirm to you that last will and statement, I know this almost like I know the last will from memory now. it's that many times I've read it. I can confirm to you that there's 4 areas, and I think we need to do that first.
I think that would be helpful. And then if we could, before we agree to be decided, I think we need to have all 3 of us, the other Councillor Aggio as well, be sent details of those individuals, not their names necessarily, but the schools and so on. I'll hand over to Councillor Saff.
Sorry, yes, I'm not trying not to labour this point. It was I think as you've just described, Yogesh, it wasn't necessarily that we didn't want singing. It was that singing wasn't an instrument, and therefore it was more the issue of the lessons element of it than the singing specifically. Everything here is about lessons rather than about instruments. So again, that's quite a change from certainly in recent years, when we've very much been under the impression, or certainly under the guidance, that this award was specifically for musical instruments, because of the cost of musical instruments. If you want to move from a basic instrument to a more sophisticated one or a better quality one, this award was to help with that. Now, I'm relatively comfortable with changing that view, as long as we are legally allowed to do that. So I appreciate you sending us your kind of view and thoughts on this, but I think we do need to make a recommendation that we get exact confirmation from legal of the awards conditions.
Yeah.
So that it's just to protect ourselves against any accusation, to make sure that we are legally sound in this. So I think I'd like to make that recommendation.
Yes, no, I think that's fine. So if we could do that. Also, I think it was a couple of years ago we met, we realised we couldn't buy the young people the instruments because they were so expensive. So we used to help with the hire costs, and they used to sort of hire them from you in the music service. That was correct, wasn't it?
No, I don't think we've never made a recommendation to hire instruments, because our costs are so low that they don't really need an award. And yet, at the other end of the scale, even a basic bassoon costs £5,000. So those of you that have been on this committee long enough will recall that even with a top award, I clearly recall a young lad wanting to buy a piano, and he was fantastic. And even with a top award of £800, the family just could not afford to put up the rest. So that was another sort of problem. And it sort of boils down to the fact that instruments have become very, very expensive. And yet we have a music service that has lots and lots of instruments, because we've been going for 20 plus years. We've invested in the instruments, and we've got some very good quality instruments. Beyond the standard of instruments that we purchase, the costs would be so prohibitive that even if we handed over all of the awards to one child, it may not be sufficient. So yeah, so that's the other point. It's sort of the need of the hour has shifted somewhat.
No, we understand that then. So if we agree it, but the to be decided, I think we'd need to have some details of that if it could be possible. Councillor Stafford, you wanted to bring.
Yeah, sorry. So just because this is a change of the way of doing things, and I again appreciate, Yogesh, that you've produced a report, but about how this is going to be done that we haven't seen it. I'd like to make another recommendation in this committee that we also receive a report of how the award recipients are identified, how they are selected and proposed for the award, and how we assure ourselves that the awards are going to the correct people. And I from what you've said, Yogesh, you've produced that, so hopefully that isn't an extra burden on you. But I think we do need to see that as a committee to assure ourselves that what's being done is appropriate and proper.
I think that the first request, Councillor Stafford, I will, with a little bit of frustration, I will forward on to you, because the reason why I'm frustrated, I've been told to do something and I've done it, and produced 2 reports and sent those, and I'm under the impression that everybody has been brought up to speed. But nevertheless, I will do that tomorrow in the afternoon, because I've got meetings all day tomorrow morning. Alex, whilst our system is robust, I think what we're I'll show you the format in which the reports need to be produced. Very brief, I think. If you can do that, and that might take more than just tomorrow. So perhaps by the end of the week.
I think that's fine. But if we could, the young people that you're looking at to be decided, if we could have some details about what schools and how many students and roughly whenever, and I know that could be a while yet because that's going to be in the future, but that'd be helpful. And I think at some stage, it's obviously we do need to know what we're going to do with this, because I can understand that having all the auditions and things could be more expensive than the money and the kitty. But I agree with you that we don't want to lose it, because we do want it for music lessons of some sort or another, and we want to encourage music, of course. Is there anything else, Councillor Stafford, you want to ask? Or
not ask. I wonder if, and this is usually goes against my better judgment, but obviously I don't want to delay the allocation of at least the 4 identified lots of £700. Whether we can agree at least those 4. Under the proviso, and I'm sure we'll get it, that we do get those relevant reports. I think by the end of the week, I don't want to put you under that much pressure, but within a working week, so perhaps by the middle of next week, I think we can. Well, if Councillor Johnson, you're happy with that, then I propose that as well.
That would be fine.
I'm part-time, so I would appreciate the full week. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think that's probably nearly everything. Is there anything else that we've forgotten or not done?
I ask Councillor Johnson and Councillor Stafford just to clarify for me what decisions you intend to make for the purpose of the minutes. Just to clarify what's been said as the final decisions of the committee.
Well, we're going to agree this subject to some of the information being sent to us. But otherwise we're agreeing it. And we just want to know more about the to be decided. We're not stopping it, but we just would like to see some more information. And also we'd like, I think Councillor Stafford was quite right to say we want clarity from somebody like Helen Harris that we aren't breaking any rules by concentrating on singing, because whatever the mayor or anybody else says, and we're not, against that. I go to the opera quite regularly, as some people know, but we just want to check that we're not breaking any rules. That's all. Anything else that you think we've forgotten? Is
that agreeing all 3 recommendations with the 3? So as you say, there were 4 that have been identified, and then was it 3 that haven't been identified? And
we want to know about those. Yes. Thank you very much. And we usually used to meet at 6, I think, didn't we? Was it 6? So we're happy to meet earlier. Yes, so, but we can't do much other than that because Councillor Stafford works for a living. I'm retired, but so we can't do other than that. And I'm not sure about all this online auditions because I go to concert stills and they were in the flesh. They're not online. So young people have to get used to singing in churches and cold concert halls. So I don't think it does them any harm. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your help. Right, good evening. Bye.
Bye.